Okay, let me take the music down. Struggle streaming. And I forgot to fade to black. Hello, everybody. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome back to the Wives Club. The Wives Club was started in 2021 when I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. And it wasn't for me. It was because I wanted to give back, and I was convicted every time he would say, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" So that's what we do here. I'm Maggie. You may know me from my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. Luke Hazley is a moderator on Kevin Samuels' channel. Lucy, please introduce yourself.
Had to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucy, and also known as Luke Casely through Kevin Samuel's channel. I used to moderate his content, and I have a channel right now that it used to be Spanish teaching content, but now this year I decided to make it more about um, femininity, elegance, and things that impact women over 50, over a certain age. So I plan on posting content every other Monday because that's the day that I have the most time. And I'm hoping to post something this upcoming Monday. I think I have a good topic, and yeah, Maggie's connection with me is through Kevin Samuels, and we miss him and we continue to learn from him.
Absolutely. So even though he is gone, his memory still lives on. So I have my notes here. This was a longer episode. This was a kind of a compilation of several different women that had called in. So what we do here in the Wives Club is we always respond to Kevin Samuel's content from a former wife, future wife, or current wife perspective, because we believe the older women should teach the young. So the topic of this episode, and I always link it in the description, is Spring Training Day, today and today only. How appropriate, if you're into sports, this time of year, a lot of the teams are starting to, well, some are winding down, some are winding up. But Kevin was basically finding ways to help women understand that we need to be trained for the kind and caliber of men that we want. And I know a lot of modern women may, take issue with that. We believe in traditional gender roles here. I understand it's not for everyone. But he basically started the episode by saying, asking, "Are you willing to be trained?" And one of the first things that he said that I loved is that even if you are an elite athlete, and he named some of the elite athletes, they all had coaches, they all had some type of training to refine those skills, because you can have that natural talent, but the man that you want, we believe that you should customize yourself, and you should want to customize yourself for your man. So that was one of the first takeaways that I had from this episode. What about you, Lucy?
And I think it goes back to what he used to say all the time, that there's always an opportunity to improve ourselves, always an opportunity to compete for our men, because some of the guests that he had on his channel, they did not understand why they had to do that, even though they didn't have as much to offer as somebody that was younger. So again, it goes back to athletes are always trying to improve themselves. They go to training camps and they go through all of these different things to continue being competitive. And that's what he was trying to tell women all throughout his presentations.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that self-awareness. That's one of the things he harped on when he was with us. One of the things that a lot of us women get wrong, especially modern women, Kevin said that we women think men want in women what we want in men. So that take charge attitude, that, provider mentality, that salary, that, physical specimen, all those things that we women look for, we think that's what's important to men. And a lot of women miss the mark on that, especially when you want a masculine man, when you want a traditional man. We complement each other. We are not the same. I always say we are not equal. We are equally valued. And so understanding that and be willing to be trained in those areas, especially if you didn't get it at home. That was one of the questions that Kevin would always ask women. Were you raised to be a housewife or even a wife at all? The first lady that called in was, I believe, like a professional dancer. She was in her 30s, never married, no kids. And she had one of these artistic careers that she thought precluded her from having marriage and family. And now in her mid 30s, she's thinking, how can I have that? And, Kevin said that these women that have delayed marriage, we are not giving the men that we want the best version of ourselves. And I love what Lucy said about competing. Even when you have a man, you need to still show up and compete, because men have built the world and they've built themselves. And if you want them to provide the type of life where we don't have to do the heavy lifting, we have to show up and add value. And then lastly, one of the questions that he asked her that I loved was, why were the women back in the past, even the ones that were showgirls in Las Vegas, why were they able to do both things? They could get married and have a family and still do whatever artistic job that they wanted to do. And this woman didn't really have a good answer for that. So modern women, I would love for you to think about, like he used to say, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. For whatever reason, we're just choosing not to. What would you add, Lucy?
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, he was 36 years old, and he asked her, what kind of environment was she surrounded by? And she said that she was predominantly around women and gay men. So because it's the artistic environment, so she is not involving herself in places where she can find that masculine heterosexual man that she's looking for. Again, it goes back to what kind of environment are you surrounding yourself in? Are you presenting yourself that will match what you're looking for? So that was really interesting. And he said, at that age, the best thing you can do is just find a matchmaker that will probably find some because the older you get, the more trade-offs that you're going to have to be able to offer. So she said a matchmaker would be great. And he said at that age it's not about love any it's more about companionship and respect.
That is so true. And you could see it kind of hit her hard when she said, oh no. But ladies, it's not the end of the world. I believe in the truth, a little bit of tough love. I am happily average. I am well aware of my potential, but I think when you embrace that and all of the truths that are you look at life and you look at your dating options more realistically. And one of the things that Kevin said is, love is for, like that love at first sight or Disney love is for like 27 and under. Once we get to a mature age, we really need to be having realistic conversations. And back in the past, our parents and grandparents, they weren't head over heels in love in the beginning, but you can grow to love somebody over time. Now, of course, you want to be attracted to them and be able to work with each other. But, Kevin did said, when women get in their 30s, time is against you. The other thing that he said that struck me, and if we have any men in the chat, I would love to hear. He said that a lot of women had started to reach out to him for this thing called a baby pact. Never heard about that, but I guess it's more common than we would want to know. So I was married for 10 years. I have 2 children from marriage. Unfortunately, it did end in divorce. I've been in a long term since then with a 1% man. So I really had to go from modern woman to getting on the program. But a lot of times, ladies, when we delay marriage and we underestimate how much we're really going to want that, and then time is against us, Then women are reaching out to men that they knew back in the past and saying, okay, I know the relationship ship has sailed. Can you just father a child for me? I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's quite selfish because children do need their fathers. They need both parents. But I think it was really interesting that he said that he had been propositioned in that way more than once. Let's see who all is here. I know Lucy's going to come back. Oh, we've got Fem Gems in the house. Hello, my dear. Hello, everybody coming in. We've got Bella in the house. We got Erin Laura in the house. Thank you all so much for being here. Feel free to shout yourself out, or you can always watch from the clouds. I'm sure Lucy will come back, but we'll just keep going on. Y'all know we struggle stream over here. Okay. So I'm just checking my notes, you all. Sorry for looking away. Okay. The other thing that he said is that we need to kind of put ourselves in men's positions. One thing that I will say, ladies, is we women and men are very different. And I think it's very beautiful. And I'm not asking us to think like a man or do anything like that. But you really do want to surround yourself with the kind and caliber of men or couples that you aspire to be, because you'll pick up on things and you'll start to see things outside of the bubble of the modern woman, because the modern woman is everywhere. There she is, and she's back. So I'll just piggyback on what Lucy said as far as, especially if you work in the type of artistic or any field where you're not going to be around the kind and caliber of men that you may want to see as marriage material, even if there's not a love, even if there's not a love match, it's important to have these type of people in your network so you can study them, you can glean from them, you can see how they move, you can see what they like and what they don't like, because men, what birds of a feather flock together, but men that are, executive men, working men, military men, like whatever their wolf pack is, whatever their brotherhood is, there's some similarities there. So you want to be open to that so you don't find yourself flat-footed when you come across, a real one. What would you add, Lucy?
And I think that when he said that love wasn't about, it wasn't at that age, it wasn't about love and but it more about companionship and respect. She kind of got a little upset. He said, you got to think back in the time where people just got together and it was like arranged marriages. People fell in love over time. They didn't fall. It's not about that fall in love, that right away you look at each other's eyes and then you fall in love right away. That's unreal. Truly, it's unreal. So some of these women are just living a fantasy world that it's it's not surprising that at the age that they are, they cannot find their Prince Charming, because that's what they're looking for.
That's a great segue into the second lady who called in. And again, I linked the original video in the description. This one is about 2 hours, so watch it when you have time. But the second lady who called in, she was, I believe, of Mexican heritage. She was also in her 40s. She had put on some COVID weight, significant COVID weight, like 50 pounds. And she was really struggling answering some simple questions. So another one, never married, no children. And there were a couple things that Kevin called her on the carpet about. So you all know the questions. He asks about your height, weight, dress size, just kind of compare your assessment of yourself with what you think your options should be. And she really tap danced around the answers. And this is not about being a size 2 or anything like that. But especially ladies, when a man asks you a question, you need to be prepared to give a direct answer to a direct question. And she was really struggling with doing some girl math. And, he kind of had her land that plane and said, no, you're not a size this, you're a size that. And she finally admitted it. And he told her, he's like, you can't do that. And she was like, oh, what is it about the weight? He said, it's not about the weight. It's about being honest and being self aware. So, if a man has a question about your past, ladies, especially if you're in the dating market, you want to be thinking about how you're going to answer things truthfully. Because Kevin said in this episode, any man who's worth his salt, he is going to vet you and he is going to ask. And so, you don't want to find yourself, stuttering through some very simple questions. And unfortunately for her, he told her, "You're not ready for a relationship," because not only was she kind of, avoiding some very direct questions, then he was asking her, she was another one who said, "I focused on my career," and she was a special education teacher. Nothing wrong with that, but another disconnect. Like, you're not sitting on, your life savings. You're trying to figure this out. For whatever reason, you delayed it, and here we are. What would you add, Lucy?
He made a great point about starting off a discussion with dishonesty because, can you hear me okay? Okay. Um, because he got her with a girl math. He goes, "So you said that you were 173 pounds, and then over COVID, you gained 55 pounds, and you said you were 200 pounds." And he said, "The pounds do not add up. I'm adding up to 228 pounds, 230 pounds." And that's where he said, "I see your hands, I see your face. You are not 200 pounds." So again, that goes back to men see when you're being dishonest, they're seeing what you're presenting, they're seeing that facade. And if you say that you're this but you're showing something else, they're saying from the get-go you are not being truthful. And again, what kind of relationship is that to begin with when you're already starting on the dishonest path? um, he also said, "What does life look like if you end up not getting married?" And then she would not answer a question, a straightforward answer. She would not answer. And it's like, we as women, instead of getting to the point, we start from A, go through Z and W, and we make this incredible word salad to not answer the question directly. And that must be so frustrating for men. And I know that it is frustrating because I remember, I think I told this story when I used to work for the nonprofit. I was looking at our female event coordinator talking to the CFO. CFO is logics numbers. And he was asking her about something about the event. She wouldn't get to the answer. And you could see the face of frustration. And I was just, I love observing. I love watching. I was just eating my popcorn, watching that interaction. But she was not getting to the point. It's a woman thing. As women, we need to be more conscious about answering a question directly. If a man wants you to say something, you say something. You don't go around it and try to create a storyline before you get to the point.
So true. And I want to come see you all in the comments. We've got Jimmy H giving us the thumbs up. So, ladies, here's some tangible tips. I always like to give you all some takeaways. If you don't know, Lucy and I run the finishing school for the modern woman, where we help women be the best version of themselves with femininity, elegance, and etiquette. But in relationship, when it comes to men, men are logical, we are emotional. So I'm not asking you to change who you are, but just understand that. So if a man asks you a direct question, answer the question first. Then, if you must, give color commentary. And you can even ask, would you like to know more? But that's something that not only is it very frustrating for men when they're trying to make sense of what we're saying, but a masculine man is not going to tolerate it. I tell y'all all the time, my man will tell you, you got one time in a row. And so you're going to learn really quickly or you're going to get left behind. And this is just how they operate. So we want you all to be prepared so you can learn the lessons that'll be helpful for you. Yeah, bottom line up front. So let me go back here. FemGem says, shelter fields. When you work in a house or when you're in a contained environment, go to settings where those men those kinds of men would be, and that was a great concern. Um, how do you find a man of your caliber if you're working inside? Okay, so I think this is basically what we said about study the type of men that you would want to be around. And ladies, this takes effort. And, Kevin used to berate us modern women that we are lazy when it comes to dating. And you'll hear this kind of thread. Actually, the next lady, no, I think the last one in this compilation, she actually said, I didn't think I'd have to prepare to meet a man. Yes, you do, for multiple reasons. There's a whole trend going on right now that it's a little bit of satire, but the men have had it. Ladies, the men have absolutely had it. And when it comes to relationship, men control access to relationship just like we control access to relations. So if you want his name, his covering, his ring, his protection, his provision, you have to not only know what they want, but give them what they want. Or you can do life by yourself. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to fight you. So if you know, number one, you need to have that self-awareness about if you want relationship, what type of wife that you want to be. I know, like, I'm very nurturing. I want, a warm, welcoming home. I want to do meals. I want to have dinner at the table, family events. That's me. Some women are fine with someone who works long hours, maybe traveling, salesman, military. You need to know that about yourself, where you're strong and where you're not. Then what type of husband complements that? And I say exclusively date that kind of man. It would be foolish for me to date someone who's, let's say, an emergency room doctor. It would be great in a lot of ways, but any moment, he could be called off. And, I like routine. I'm better with that type of structure. So once you know the type of man that you would be best being a helpmate to or serving, then you need to find where they are. If it's conferences, if it's lectures, if it's mixers, if it's networking events, if it's going to the coffee shop that's close to, the financial district. Whatever you have to do, you have to know what you're looking for and seek that out. So before we continue, what would you add, Lucy?
I don't know
Muted.
if you've talked about this before, but he also asked her, uh, where do you live? And she said that she lived in LA. And he said, what kind of assets, what are you offering? What do you have? And she said that her mom gave her her house. And he says, we're trying to see where the outcomes are of all those little businesses that you've built, that you say you've built. Um, she spent most of the money from that she's made on traveling, she said. And she also stated that her last relationship was about 8 years ago, and it was a relationship for 5 years off and on. And then he said, you know what? There's not much to work with you at the end. So that was pretty sad, because she realized that she was, on the losing end. Um, and then he also asked, "What do you think you have to offer a man?" And it took her forever to say what she would offer a man. And she said, "Well, I'm willing to be trained." It's really hard to answer that. I want to be a stay-at-home mom or wife. And he goes, "Why would you be a stay-at-home wife with no kids?" So, and then he asked her, after the house is organized, who would mess it up? And she didn't get that concept. She goes, "Well, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom." But it was really interesting to see that back and forth. She did not get that, why would you want to be a stay-at-home wife, not have a job, and then your husband working? What else would you do?
Yeah, that is so true, ladies. In all things, we need to be thinking about how we can be useful to the man that we want or the man that we have. That's a huge thing that I tell the ladies. We do coaching, I do coaching and consults outside. Lucy and I do the finishing school. But a lot of times, especially as modern women, we think we're supposed to be this kind of like passenger princess, and you're just supposed to, do my bidding and come lay everything at my feet. That's not how it goes, ladies. And especially those of us who are mature, we need to know and accept that we need to work harder. Now, when we prove ourselves that we're really in it and committed, you get everything that you want on the back end, believe me. But you are going to have to show up and show out in a way that a man would overlook, the youth that all of us used to have, but youth is fleeting and we should be winning. Kevin used to say this: mature women should be winning with our wisdom and the experience that is beneficial to a man. But if you at 30, 40, 50 kind of have like, I don't want to say like bobblehead, but if you just kind of like immature thinking without the benefit of youth, it really goes against you, ladies. So show up as you are and show the benefit of your years. The next lady that called in, I wanted to move on to. This was this the flight attendant? No, this was the one who called in and she said she has gotten feedback from men that she has an attitude. And she was like, I don't think I have an attitude. Maybe my standards are too high or something like that, she said. So you could already feel the energy. Oh boy, this one is going to go off the rails. And he asked her certain questions and he was trying to get to the root of, why do you think you deserve, the laundry list of things that you do? And, she rated herself an 8. That's fine. But the outcomes, whatever average life that she lived, that a lot of us live, did not connect with how she thought of herself. So the point is, ladies, a lot of times the lack of humility and being humble is a huge quality of being feminine, because men are the ones that are boastful. Men are the ones that are bold, right? That's what they require to be competitive. But when you're a feminine woman, you are very humble and you don't expect the world to just be laid at your feet. So what he told her is that attitude that a lot of people are telling you have comes from a place of, you've overvalued yourself. Now, I'm not saying that you're not valuable, but when you overvalue yourself, then you expect an outcome up here. But when you get an outcome down here, then you've got a chip on your shoulder because you feel like life is unfair. But if you've been getting that feedback, if you adjust your expectations to what your life is, then you end up being more grateful for everything that you have and every opportunity that you have. Because he asked her, we don't have unlimited lives in this video game of relationships. And he corrected her, and she tried to bark at him, and he checked that real quick. So be careful about that if you have gotten feedback that you have an attitude. What would you say, Lucy?
I think I missed that whole segment. I don't remember. Is she the cute? She's not the 20, almost 30-year-old cute one with the blue top. Was that her? No.
I think
I
that
think
was the last
the
one.
last
No,
one.
that was a
Okay.
flight attendant. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I missed that other one. Again, yeah, Kevin has mentioned a lot that unfortunately modern women have been fed this idea that you are uh, perfect and you don't need to fix anything because apparently you are the table. So again, that is nonsense because nobody was born perfect. And the more you think that you are above anything else, the less you think that you need to work on things. And, for me, it's better to think that you need some work and continue to look for ways to improve yourself, because it's always a good thing to say, yeah, you know what? I'm not great at this. Let me try it out. Whereas a lot of the women that would call in his show, they thought that they were tens from the get go. And it's like, how? So I'm sorry I missed that one segment. I'm gonna have to rewatch it because I don't remember anything at all. But I had about 2.5 pages on the next one.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the next one, y'all. This one was a long one. It was over 2 hours. So believe me, there's lots of content here, and I'd love to know what you all think from what we said, or if you all have seen this episode. But it was a compilation. All right. So the next lady we'll move on to was a flight attendant. And she called in because, whatever reason, I'm sure she wanted relationship as well. And, one of Kevin's questions is asking about past relationships. And I love how his questioning kind of takes a curve and you didn't see this one coming. So he asks her about her relationship history, how long it lasted, how long ago it was, and who broke it off. And she had a little bit of an air of, I know I'm cute. And that's great, but put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to beauty in a moment. And he asked her who broke off her last relationship. And she said she did. And he asked her, how did you do it? Well, I think he asked her, why did you break it off? And this was a 5-year relationship. All right. Long-term relationship. She broke it off. And she kind of tap danced around it, but she said something kind of like, without saying I thought I was better than him, but she was just kind of like, yeah, he really didn't, I didn't really have a lot of respect for him. He really wasn't, going places or whatever. And that's fine. You like who you like. So he asked her, how did you end it? And what she revealed really set him off. She said that she was driving her boyfriend to work. So she was in the driver's seat. He was in the passenger seat. And about 10 minutes from his workplace, he worked at the mall. She was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work out. And took him to work to process that. And Kevin, he let her have it. He absolutely let her have it, because that goes to the character that you have, that you would just kind of treat somebody disposable for whatever reason you thought he was good enough to be with for 5 years, and then you just kind of dropped him off on the side of the road. And she really was surprised that he was so upset by that. And he asked her, he said, do you think men could just walk through life without planning the way that you do? Men can't just do that. They have to be very intentional about every step. And he told her, he said, yeah, another man is, he actually looked at the camera and he said, men, if you deal with a woman who handled a previous man like that, you need to run for the hills. So ladies, just telling you, even if it's over, there's a considerate way, there's an elegant way to have a difficult conversation and still be respectful of the other person. Take that from a divorcee. What would you add, Lucy?
That was so sad. I think I was driving from one place to the other while I was listening to it. And I'm here, and as she's telling the story about how she just told him on his way to work. I'm here going, what kind of lack of empathy is that? Does she not understand that once you give a man something so heavy to process, he's got to go to work with that weight on him about this woman dumping you after 5 years? How do you think that's going to work for him processing his job and doing whatever he's got to do? That's going to be in his head. And that's why he always made sure to tell us women that what men needed was our respect and peace. Do you think that is a peaceful woman that decides to break off a 5-year relationship, driving him to work, on his way to work, without any care of how that information will impact this man? Now, I do have some issues about her driving him to work to a mall. How old were they? So that sounds like, teenagers. She's driving her teenage boyfriend to work, but whatever. But it's the lack of delicacy or just softness about telling a person that you've been with for 5 years, you would think that you have some kind of care for him, to sit him down in a place where, it requires some timing to process, and you just decide to break it off on his way to work.
No, let me be very clear. I don't like that she's driving him to work either, but she's got to take some responsibility for this. So a few teachable moments here. What Kevin gleaned from this is, oh, you thought you were better than him. Now, ladies, we say we cannot change men. They are who they are. Our job is to vet as we are being vetted. If you see him as husband material, then you get on the program. If you don't see him as husband material, you exit with grace. What I always say is we can't change them. But for her to stay with a man for 5 years that she really didn't respect, because he asked her, he was like, oh, yeah, you didn't really have any respect for him. And she said, nah. I would say, why were you with him for 5 years? Number one, you wasted 5 years of your life, which as a woman, you do not have that luxury of time. But you could tell it was right underneath the surface. She wanted somebody that she could boss around. My man, he will people watch like Lucy, and he'll be like, oh yeah, that's his fault. I wouldn't have that. She got the type of man that she can tell what to do. So, ladies, whether we want to admit it or not, we know who's going to put up with our stuff, and we know who's going to check us immediately. So you deal with that if you entertain long-term relationships with someone that you don't respect. But he called her out on that callous behavior, because it's really unacceptable. And I will just say this as a boy mom. One of the things that I realize now is how much men have to keep it together. Can you imagine if the roles were reversed and that was a man who had been with a woman for 5 years, and she thought this was going somewhere, and she thought maybe she was going to get the ring, or we're progressing, you're still with me after 5 years, and he's taking her to her mall job, and 10 minutes away from work, he was like, yeah, I don't think this is working out. Have a great day. Can you imagine how that woman would have responded? So we really need to have appreciation for how men control their emotions because they have to. And one of the things my man told me is like, men are always getting checked by their dads, by their coaches, by other men. Quit your crying, we got work to do. Women, we have not had that reinforcement. The world really treats us with kid gloves. So a lot of times when you look at a man and he's like, he's not worth my time. He doesn't make that kind of money. There's not this about him. There is a chiseling that a man has to go through just to be able to survive and not go off, because men know, like Kevin used to say, there is a low level threat of violence right underneath that. And if you've never seen a man in his full rage, it is very, very scary. I do not wish that. I've seen the boys fight and I'm just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But yeah, I just really have a lot more respect for men who feel all the same emotions that we do, but they know how to control themselves. So if nothing else, having consideration and appreciation for that. But the red thread for me in this episode, ladies, is that all of these women, when Kevin talked to them, there was an opportunity that they had to be with a man that was suitable for them. And for whatever reason, they thought they were better than. And so they either left or let him go. And now 10, 20 years later, they're scrambling to find something that they don't qualify for because they have overvalued who they are on the dating market. So I would just say, ladies, staying humble and letting other people brag on you and being grateful for everything. You just open yourself up to a real possibility and not something fleeting. What would you add, Lucy?
He also asked her, how do you think your ex experienced you? And the response that she gave was, well, maybe you would say I was interesting. And she also said, I'm spoiled. And to me, that was red flag number 27. I mean, somebody that says, I am spoiled, you better believe that she is spoiled and she expects a level of catering to her that is unrealistic. Um, he also said, so in 5 years, he hurt you. There wasn't, you didn't hurt him. It was only he hurting you. And she never said, no, you know what? Now that you think about it, I did do some crappy things to him. She never fessed up. And again, it goes back to the need to be right. She never said, you know what? I may have been not the best girlfriend all throughout, but she did not say that. And then lastly, he said, in 5 years, someone would not stay in an unhealthy relationship. So there's something to do, something about average self-esteem. Um, and one of the things that I noticed when Kevin was checking her, on her nonsense that she was replying to those questions, she kept rocking herself, kind of like soothing herself front and back and then side to side. That was really, it was a little weird because it's not normal behavior. Again, me and watching people, that is not normal behavior when you're talking to someone. How do you rock yourself side to side while somebody is trying to check you? So that's kind of like a soothing behavior, and I'm not sure, something must have happened, something weird. So again, it goes back to, we all have our stories, we all have our issues. So, there's probably a reason why she's not finding a suitable man. There are issues there. Um, she also said she wasn't good with money. And then she goes, see, that's why I need a husband. And it's like, oh my goodness, girl, seriously. So again, so yeah, those are some of my notes. And she had, and then when he asked her what was her major in school, she said she had an associate's in theater. So another useless degree.
I know, y'all. We're making fun. We're gonna come to the chat. Another teachable moment, ladies. I take body movement classes because one of the things I had to work on were my gestures. They used to be just kind of like harsh, and I was louder than I wanted to be and more masculine than I want to be. We all have our ticks and clicks, but try and be aware of how you show up. And like Lucy said, like any of these, like, nervous, or if you have that foot that's doing, or you're always like, in your hair or whatever it is, it shows, it doesn't show, no, messed up. It doesn't show as confident. And so if you want to be taken seriously by a man, especially as a mature woman, you can record yourself and see how you respond in areas, or what you do when you get stressed, and then, work on ways to bring that together. All right, so let's see a couple things in the chat. I want to get to what Black Wolf says, but Lucy, I'm going to start with you on this one from KS, and then we'll move to Black Wolf's question.
He says, perfection is always fantasy. Por eso incluso trata de alcanzar la perfección. I'm thinking that he might say that there's a reason why you have to reach perfection. I'm not sure what that. Por eso incluso, I'm not sure how he's using that. And then yeah, so yeah, perfection is always a fantasy. You will never reach it. Like I said, perfection and excellence are two different. You should always strive for excellence, not perfection.
Absolutely, ladies. We just need to drop that. One of the things that Kevin said in this episode is that a lot of women want to be luxury housewives. This is not a real thing. All right. It's just not. I know social media makes us feel like we're going to have nannies and drivers and chefs and all of this stuff. No, no, we are all just regular people. There is like a very small percent, but I look forward to working and serving. And of course, you'll get your gifts and pampering and stuff like that. But if you show up ready to add value, ready to be useful, thinking about how you can be helpful, that's a much better approach than thinking, okay, garçon, I'm ready for my for my grapes now. All right, so I see something here from Black Wolf. He says, what would y'all say about the soft guy era that's going on now? All right, so you all know I talk to Thane regularly, and he sent me a couple of videos to watch. I usually don't really consume a lot of social media. I try to stay on the cooking channels. I like to be blissfully unaware of the foolishness, but there is an era going on there. It's a trend that's going on right now, and as I understand it, a lot of women had taken to TikTok and other places saying that they want to live a soft life, that a man has to do this laundry list of things to even, be in their presence, to have time with them. And, I'm not lifting a finger, I'm not doing anything. You have to take me to these places, you have to spend this kind of money on me, you have to wine and dine me this kind of way because I live a soft life. What the heck that is, I don't know. Let me just be very clear. If you want a man who works hard, he wants a woman that works hard in a different way. But please believe, and I have one, they do not tolerate laziness. They need you to pick up the slack where they can't. They do the heavy lifting, but believe me, you are going to work. So either accept that or find somebody, else. Fine. So now the men have been told over and over that they have to bring you the sun, the moon, and the stars to even have a conversation with you. They've had it. And because men control relationships, now they have taken to the internet saying that they are not pumping gas anymore. They are not taking out trash anymore. You need to take the date. You need to pay for the dates. You need to read their mind. You need to don't talk to them in public because that's creepy. It is satire. It is a joke. But ladies, the joke is on us. And right underneath that humor is a very serious warning. And I would say, ladies, you need to take heed to this. Like you see the tip of the iceberg, there's a huge iceberg underneath there. Now, a lot of women got mad at the passport bros because they said, you know what, we're going to go overseas and we're going to find what we want. Because men are the ones who propose and men are the ones who establish relationships. If we want what they have, we need to do what they want. Just like if they want what we have, access to us, don't we require them to do what we want? All right. So I think it is funny. I've seen some of the videos, but I always look for the lesson. I always look for the teachable moment. And I think, ladies, it's funny until it's not. And I take it very seriously because men are telling us something, and hopefully we're reading between the lines, and hopefully we're reading, we're looking at the tea leaves, because I think we have an opportunity to correct this before it's too late. But I understand and I accept for some it may already be too late. What would you add, Lucy?
I love our men. I love men because they took that soft girl era and they immediately turned it around, and they don't like it. The women are going berserk over that satire. Some of them are taking it as it's as serious. It's hilarious. I say drizzle drizzle all the way. But it's really interesting. Yes, drizzle drizzle. Um, that men are making it so funny. It's hilarious to those women that are secure about what they have. I think is the funniest thing. But like you said, Maggie, there's an underlying kind of truth there that women better start paying attention. That, you know what, ultimately we can't compete with men. They're winning right now. They're winning, and they're making fun of us. They're making fun of those women that cannot get a man because of their dumb modern women fem what is it? It's not
Feminism.
feminism. I didn't want to oh, feminism nonsense that they're been taught, and this is what's happening. Men are laughing about it. They will find, you know, they will give us grace. They've always given us grace, but it's time for women to understand that, without our men, we're lost. So it was funny. I think it's hilarious.
Yes, absolutely. And Black Wolf says it's literally their shtick that the men flipped on them, or as my man would say, country boy, it ain't funny when the rabbit got the gun. I'll let you all process that on your own. But yes, ladies, it's true. But here's the difference. We can say as much as we want to that I won't go to the Cheesecake Factory. You need to cash at me before you speak to me. Or, if you're taking me out, you need to take me and my three girlfriends out. And a man that makes 50,000 shouldn't even date. And all this ridiculous stuff that's being said. But ladies, we're saying that, but we can't do anything about it. We're literally just complaining in a vacuum, right? Or some women who are, excuse me, completely missing the point. Well, I'll just stay single. You can take your ball and go home. But what are the men doing? What did MGTOW by Logic say? My wife was born in Bangladesh, about 7,000 miles away, and I don't care who doesn't like it. That is the end game, ladies. If we take our ball and go home, we go home alone. If the men take their ball and go home, they go find a woman who is going to get on the program. Now, you can like it or not like it, but that's the difference here. So, yes, it's funny. I'm enjoying some of the videos. I don't talk about other content creators, but I know the Drizzle Drizzle is a play on the Sprinkle Sprinkle, which was, I still don't really understand what that means because I've been told I'm not cool and I love that. I'm fine with it. Some of y'all know what that means. But yes, I mean, the men, the men decide. It just is what it is. But you know what, ladies, when it comes to relationships, they decide because they've had to do the work to be able to command the type of relationship that they want, and they're not going to settle. Because if we're being very honest, when we had the power and we were shooing men off left and right, we really didn't care what anybody else thought about it. So now the men are saying, I don't care what you think. It's our turn. All right. So that's the question. Any final thoughts on this one, Lucy?
Let me see on my notes. See, I had notes everywhere. No, she kept kind of like laughing, thinking it was funny, and um, she had zero thought about her marriage and family life. When he asked her what she wanted to do, she never said, I want a husband. I want a man. She always kept saying about family life and marriage, but she never saw that important piece of what creates that family life. So that was really telling. Um, oh, so when he asked, uh, so what do you think men want from women? And then he said they want cooperation and agreeableness. And then she said it in a low tone voice. That sounds too much like a servant. And that just, you know, it to him that was completely. It was a telling. He said, "This is you can't make this stuff up." He showed it. She said it, and that was that.
So good. There's a couple of takeaways I'll leave you ladies with, and thank you all for the compliments. I'm glad that this is helpful. That's what our heart is to teach, to keep Kevin's legacy alive because he changed our lives, but to help, give a little bit of tough love. As my man would say, for women who say, that sounds like too much of a servant, you just ain't met the right one yet. Meaning, you'll do it when you find somebody that you are like, what do I need to do to lock this down? Um, yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say too, and I've told this to a lot of my younger consults, it's wonderful to want a family and it's wonderful to want to be a mother, one of the joys of my life. However, ladies, you want to make sure that you keep the man the priority. A lot of men have a concern, and it's a real concern that, oh, if I marry her, not only is she going to get lazy and let herself go, but if I give her a child or two or three, everything is going to be focused about the children, and the man is just basically the resource provider. So I always tell my ladies, make sure you say you want to be a wife and mother, and make sure if you want a family, the man is the priority, because the kids, believe me, they're going to grow up and they're going to go off, and that man is going to be with you, and you want to look forward to your golden years. I'll be 49 this year. Lucy's 57. And Kevin always used to ask, what do you want life to look like when you're 50 and 60? So continue to prioritize relationships, because we are better together, and you will get the family, you will get a happy home, you will get the companionship and the life partner that you can grow old together with, if you prioritize the love and the opportunity and the luck that you have. All right, let's see if there's anything else in the comments. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm glad this is helpful. So the Wives Club is here for you all every Friday night. We did take last Friday off. We missed you all, but Lucy and I and some of the ladies in the chat were celebrating at happy hour. We run the finishing school for the modern woman, so we are still basking in the afterglow of our graduation weekend, but we're back on our regular schedule. We're here for you all every Friday. We take a Kevin Samuels episode. Even though he is gone, his legacy still lives on, and we give our take from our own lived experience to hopefully, help the younger women, or all of us, because we have not arrived. What is this one, Lucy?
He says, I'm a single man. If a woman rejects me, then it's to the next one.
Well, you heard it, ladies, and it's universal. So you can ball up your fist and shout at the moon, but you're going to have to come back and figure out what you want your golden years to look like. MGTOW by Logic says authenticity and cooperation is what we are looking for. No more starter husbands. Men are making y'all starter wives now. Drizzle, drizzle. Thank you all for liking the live stream. Yes, we're going to keep his legacy alive. But, again, I don't know how long this trend is going to last, but ladies, listen to the message underneath the humor, because the men are going to get what they want when it comes to relationship. They're not going to settle. Time is on their side. It's not on our side. And they are willing to go without for a lot longer than we are. And they will wait. They have their standards, and they're not going to lower their standards. So like Kevin always used to say, you can want what you want, but are you qualified for it? And are you willing to do the work? So remember, this episode is spring training day. All of us who want relationship, we're going to have to be trained, because unfortunately the modern world that we live in now does not prioritize relationship. But if you do the work, you can absolutely have the happy outcomes as well. Any last thoughts, Lucy?
I think this was a great episode. I think it was, again, another one that showed Kevin Samuels at his best, asking the right questions, getting women to show who they really were. And he said at the end, he said, gentlemen, you better start vetting these women, asking about their previous relationships. And when you hear the answer, just like hers, bounce.
Oh, yes. Well, we want you to win. We want you to have something real, and we're here to help you get that. MGTOW says life isn't about what you want. It's about what you can get. Live in reality. It's fun. I agree. I 100% agree. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and dismiss and let you all have your Friday evening. Thank you for being here. We will see you all back next week in the Wives Club. Adios.
Adios.
Adios.